Okay, so we are thinking about the Explore God series, and our second week, our second question is this: is there a God? There's no way of knowing, is there? Just by asking people. If you went out and conducted a straw poll, nobody would know if there's a God or not, because some say yes, some say no. There is no definitive answer. Why? Because there's no proof. And maybe the better question wouldn't be to ask, is there a God? It's more to ask, how much effort does anyone spend in trying to find God? Because if you look at all the evidence, the same evidence is there, and yet one person can look at it and say, yes, I do believe God made all things. There is a God, he's helping me. Another person can look at that same evidence and say, no, we just evolved, there's no God, we're kind of some cosmic accident, there's no real purpose to anything. From the same evidence. So why is it that one person knows more, or one person comes to a conclusion to believe that there is God? It's about whether they've invested some time to go searching. I have a picture here. The picture is connected to a story of Martha and Mary, two sisters. And Jesus goes to see these two sisters on one occasion. And as he goes there, the two sisters have a very different response to having Jesus in their house. One sister's called Martha. She spends the whole time rushing around the house, getting the house ready, preparing the beds, making the food, doing whatever she can to get the house ready. That's her priority. The other sister is Mary, and Mary decides her best use of time is to sit at the feet of Jesus, listening to every word he says. And after a while, Martha notices that Mary's not doing any work, so she says to Jesus, "Can you please rebuke my sister and tell her to get on with the work?" Instead, Jesus rebukes Martha. He doesn't rebuke her like he doesn't have a right go at her, but what he does say to her, he says no. He says Mary has chosen what is better, and it won't be taken away from her. Amidst the fact that Jesus is in the house, there were two options. You could either rush around and get busy with other stuff and be distracted, as Jesus said, or you could spend the time thinking, I want to hear what this man has to say. And that's the issue with so many of us. We're so distracted by the things of life that we don't make the time to find out if God really is there. What are we distracted with? Well, there's four pictures here. Here's a big table of food, probably similar to what Martha might have been preparing. There's some clothes, a clothes shop over there. There's a car here, and there's some bars of gold. And what they represent the things that take up our time, the things we own, the things we eat, the things we own, what we look like, and how much money we have. And if you ever watch a TV advert, you will always see an advert has something to do probably with one of these things. We allow ourselves to get tremendously distracted with these things, with our hobbies, with sport, with our TV shows. It's like there's no room in our life to find that time to stop and think about, I wonder if what Jesus says is true. And what we need to do is remind ourselves that these things aren't permanent. And Jesus says, make sure you have that mindset. These things won't last forever. He says in Luke, for life is more than food and the body more than clothes. He says just a few verses before that, life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. It means life's not about how much stuff you own. And in Matthew, in chapter 6, he says, lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven where neither moth nor rust nor thieves can break in and steal. He says, don't be so fixated on the things that distract you that they might possibly stop you seeing the thing that's really important. So if these things are temporary, it's worth taking them off. And only in taking them off might we actually see the thing that Jesus needs us to know about. And when we do that, we find that something was there all the time, but it was only in removing the stuff that we found the time to actually notice it. Is there a God? I'm not going to answer it, but I'm going to ask you this. Have you spent some time in thinking about whether there is a God, and have you gone searching? The Bible says that we come to God by diligently searching for him, and those who search for him will find him, and he will reward them. There's the question. Are you looking for God?